Lewis Hamilton's emotional win at Silverstone last weekend not only marked a return to form for the 7-time world champion, but for his team as well. George Russell's win in Austria was fortuitous for the crash ahead of him, but at the British Grand Prix, no one could deny that Mercedes won on merit. It has been an almost unbelievable turnaround from the start of the season, but Mercedes now look like serious competition for both Red Bull and McLaren. So the question everyone is asking is, how have they managed it? How have they come from a team who couldn't bring a successful upgrade to back-to-back race winners? Let's check it out. The feeling for many fans over the past couple of months is that Formula One is back. 6 different drivers have taken victory in the first 12 races of the season. Max Verstappen, Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc, Carlos Sainz, George Russell, and now in stunning fashion, Lewis Hamilton. After 945 long days, Hamilton crossed the finish line first at the British Grand Prix, taking his 104th win overall and a record-breaking 9th victory at Silverstone, the most wins for a driver at any one circuit. But if you'd asked Hamilton about his chances at winning a race in 2024 just last month, he'd have told you that he wasn't focusing on wins, just on improving his Mercedes W14 to make it the best car it could be before he departs for Ferrari in 2025. Many of his fans had completely given up hope on Mercedes, and with Ferrari looking the most likely to challenge Red Bull early on this season, couldn't wait for 2025. Now though, Ferrari look a distant 4th fastest, under threat from their surging customer Haas. Ferrari's decline over the last couple of months is a subject for its own discussion, but how did Hamilton get a first win since 2021? The obvious answer is that he was the fastest, but that doesn't always hold true for F1. At Silverstone though, the Mercedes of Lewis Hamilton was the fastest car on track. When excluding anomaly laps such as the first lap, laps where the driver entered or exited the pits, and laps with some kind of yellow flag or VSC, Hamilton had an average lap time of 1 minute 33.838. That was 0.11 seconds faster per lap than second fastest Oscar Piastri, 0.14 seconds per lap faster than Max Verstappen, and 0.2 seconds per lap faster than Lando Norris. The McLarens of Norris and Oscar Piastri had a pace advantage in wet conditions, but Hamilton was quick enough to win the race during the dry patches. The Mercedes package seems to favour colder temperatures, while the on-again, off-again rain throughout the Grand Prix favoured drivers with both experience managing changeable conditions and making strategy calls during challenging events. It was here that Hamilton was helped by his rivals' mistakes. McLaren strategy calls impacted both of their drivers in separate instances. Norris was Hamilton's biggest threat in the race, but after a poor standing start, again, and a poorly timed pit stop for the quickly degrading old soft tyres, Norris had nothing to give in the final laps of the race. But how did Mercedes get into the position where Hamilton was even capable of battling for the win, let alone being the fastest car on track? In the opening 8 races of the season, his best finishing position had been 6th in Miami and Imola, his worst ever start to a season. Over the last 4 races though, Mercedes have featured on the podium every time and have won the last 2. Changes have clearly been made to the car. Speaking to the media after the race, Red Bull team boss Christian Horner admitted that the Mercedes car has always been strong in the cooler conditions. Andrea Stella of McLaren pushed back against the story building around his team. There's this narrative around that McLaren has the best car, but I think we make good use of it, right? The W15 has been up there with Red Bull and McLaren for a number of races now, but at Silverstone, the conditions really suited it, and as Andrea Stella said, they made good use of it. In mid-May, Mercedes bought a slew of upgrades to Imola, including a revised floor, revised brake ducts, a new rear wing, and a new beam wing. The whole goal was to push the development of the W15 in a new direction, after Mercedes' gamble on the zero sidepod concept failed to deliver. Those upgrades didn't immediately bear fruit, but in Canada, a small but apparently vital change was made which unlocks some performance in the car. Changes to the front suspension, including adjusting the track rod and forward leg of the lower wishbone, helped improve airflow from the front wing to the underbody. To go with that new suspension layout, Mercedes also had their new front wing fitted to both cars in Canada. The design was a clear shift in philosophy from what the team started the season with, and it was exactly what they needed. Early season analysis of the Silver Arrow highlighted that its performance profile was too narrow. It was either competitive in high-speed corners but then lacking at slower ones, or was the opposite in being good in low-speed turns and then suffering in quick curves. The front wing is the most important aerodynamic part on an F1 car. While it doesn't provide the most points of downforce, it does shape the flow of the air over the rest of the car. The importance of a good front wing, which matches the profile of the rest of the car, is obvious if you compare Mercedes' results before and after the new wing was fitted. The change has been incredible. But this is the same Mercedes team who seemed completely unable to work out how the current technical regulations worked. So what has changed at the factory to help them design working upgrades? It would be easy to say that, considering Mercedes' technical work during the ground effect regulations, that the new front wing, working so well to unlock their car's performance, was a bit of luck. After all, team boss Toto Wolff has been saying for years there's no silver bullet in Formula 1, and yet his team have managed to find one. However, Wolff insists the much-talked-about magic front wing is not the secret behind Mercedes' return to form. Rather, he credits that to a moment from technical director James Allison, where suddenly everything clicked. There was a moment where, led by James, suddenly the data made sense and the gap, he told the media at Silverstone. Mainly the way we balanced the car and how we could bring it in a better sweet spot. That was the main thing. It wasn't a miracle front wing, it was more the balance that we achieved. Mercedes' data problems have been well covered over the past 2 seasons. They've been hamstrung by an inability to match up their simulation working with the real world. Since this moment of what must be divine inspiration for James Allison, though, the team has been surprisingly strong, stronger than you might think. They've scored 142 points in the last 5 races since George Russell ran the new wing in Monaco, outscoring every team on the grid, including Red Bull. For now, though, they remain 4th in the Constructors' Championship with a 152-point deficit to first-placed Red Bull. It clicked, Wolff added. Suddenly, everything that didn't make sense made sense. The development direction, or the results of the development direction, are like back in the old days. We're finding performance, we're putting it on the car, and it translates into lap time. That wasn't the case for the last 2 years. There's more to come in terms of performance we're bringing. We're bringing bits to Budapest and Spa. But on the other side, we mustn't get carried away. We had a win last week benefiting from the entangling, but today we have an honest win. We had the real pace. Mercedes' sudden ascent to the front of the grid is an exciting prospect for F1 fans. Under the ground effect regulations, and arguably for 7 of the 8 seasons of the turbo hybrid regulations before it, Formula 1 hasn't been a multi-team battle for race wins on a regular basis. There have always been periods where a couple of cars look capable of taking a win. Certainly Ferrari tried their hardest halfway through the hybrid era, but never over an extended period. This season, we've already had 6 race winners. The last time an F1 season saw that many wins was in 2012, where there were 8 winners over the entire season. There had been 7 winners after 12 races that year. One of those was a shock in Spain, where Pastor Maldonado won, one of his 5-point finishes of the season, on his way to a 15th place finish in the drivers' standings. Now, McLaren, Mercedes, and Red Bull are all in contention for race wins when the track suits them or when the race strategy is right. With upgrades, it's entirely possible that Ferrari rejoins that pack as well. With 2 races before the summer break, no one can predict who will win those races. I say enjoy it while you can. What do you think of Mercedes' turnaround in form? And how excited are you to watch the remaining races before the summer break? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and until next time, drive safe and bye for now.